Hello and welcome to the MyHeritage webinar series. I'm Jeff Rasmussen, your host, broadcasting to you live from MyHeritage offices in Tel Aviv, Israel. Today we have both Ran Snir and Regev Schweiger with us for the topic of understanding DNA matching technology. So thanks to both of them, and thanks to all of you. More than 2,800 of you from 41 countries around the world have registered for today's webinar. So wherever and whenever you are, thanks for sharing part of your day with us. And now I'd like to welcome Ran Snir, who is responsible for MyHeritage DNA products. He leads a talented team of developers, QA engineers, and designers to create and optimize DNA users' entire journey from ordering a DNA kit, tracking the kit's progress, receiving results, to leveraging a continually growing suite of features to make the most of the DNA results in genealogical research. And most recently, he led the development of the brand new chromosome browser for shared DNA segments from concept through production and launch. So please put together your virtual hands and let's give Ran Snir a nice warm webinar welcome. Ran, welcome to the show, and how are you tonight?
Hi, Jeff. Thank you very much for the kind words. Hello, everybody. So as Jeff said, my name is Ran Snir, and I'm a product manager at MyHeritage, responsible for the DNA product. And today we're going to talk a little bit about DNA in general, and then go more in depth into what we're doing at MyHeritage.
Well, Ran, it's an exciting topic, and there we see your screen. It looks great. Go ahead and move that cursor off to the side, and the time's all yours. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Jeff. All right. So before we dive into what we're doing at MyHeritage, I think it's a very good opportunity to start by diving into what DNA matching is, not only at MyHeritage. And after we understand the basic concepts, we'll go more in depth into what DNA matches are on MyHeritage, and we'll do a walkthrough in the website. And right after that, I'll give you a sneak peek to what's coming up very soon. All right, so DNA at a glance. So all of us human beings, we have 22 pairs of autosomal chromosomes, and in addition, we have the sex chromosome. For males, it's a pair of XY, and for females, it's a pair of XX. And that's basically what defines us as human beings and what differentiates us from one another. So in our DNA, there are over 3 billion base pairs. Here you can see two sets of DNA, one next to the other. And even though they might look alike, actually the one on the top belongs to a human, and the one on the bottom belongs to a chimpanzee. So it's fascinating to find out about 98% of us and chimpanzees, we are genetically similar when looking at our DNAs. And when looking at human beings, the number even goes up, and 99.9% of those 3 billion pairs are actually the same. So we're left with that 0.1%, which actually differentiates us from one another. When talking about DNA matches, the best way, as I see it, to explain it is using an example and showing how DNA is inherited from parents to children and so forth. So in our example here, we see Frank and Molly. Each one of them has 2 pairs of chromosomes here for that example. And you can see that they have 2 children, Ben and Lisa. Now you can see that the first pair, Ben inherited a little of the more darker purple, but more of that brighter purple from his father, Frank. From his mother, Molly, he inherited more of the darker orange than the light one. And Lisa is kind of the opposite. And that's how their DNA structure is built. That's how they inherited those chromosomes from their parents. So if we look and we'll try to compare between Ben and Lisa, we'll see that actually they don't share their entire chromosomes. There are only certain places, certain locations on the chromosome in which the 2 of them match exactly. And the situation gets even more interesting when they have kids of their own, And then we have a partner for each one of them, in this case, blue from Ben's partner and green from Lisa's partner. So when we look at that, we can see that Eric and Julia are sharing even less DNA between one another. So how does it work, and what is the meaning of that shared DNA, and how does it look? So if I'm looking at myself, if I'll have a DNA match, if my father or my son or a sibling will be tested, we can see that there's a 50% shared DNA between us, because I've inherited 50% from my father and the remaining 50% from my mother. As we move up or down in the generation, we'll see that the result, every generation basically drops in additional 50%. So with my grandma, I'll be sharing 25%, and so on, and so on, and so on. And as we move further, the amount of shared DNA will decrease. So when we're saying that there's a DNA match between two individuals, so in this case, Eitan on the left was found to be DNA matched with Jane Doe. And that means that they have shared DNA segments. And when we look at the whole picture and we try to understand how, we can see that if we look at their family trees, eventually up there's a common ancestor for the both of them, which they both inherited that same shared segment that we showed, that same percentage of shared DNA is coming from that common ancestor. And with DNA matching, that is what we are trying to find out. Those segments, which we call identity by descent, which means the segments that were inherited by a common ancestor, and try to get to that person where it all started. So how does DNA matching works? So when you take the test, it gets to the lab, and then there's a process, we won't go too much into that, of the DNA extraction, but basically your saliva sample that you provided will be transformed into a DNA file, which looks a little bit like that. There are about 700,000 lines that we look at MyHeritage, which will show a list of all your chromosomes and all of the SNPs, all of the locations, and the result. The one of the four, you have two pairs of 4 letters, A, G, C, and T, which represent what do you have, what is the result that you have in that specific position. So we take that file, and then we are doing a couple of things. So the first thing we are doing is we are doing a process called phasing. In phasing, we are trying to differentiate as we get those 2 letters. We can't say which of the letters, which of the result you got from your father or your mother. It's a file that we have only of you. And we are doing a process of phasing in which we are trying to segmentize, which we try to differentiate the sequence, the letters that you got from your father and the centers that you got from your mother. And these will be later used for matching purposes. The next thing we're doing is DNA matching, imputation. Imputation is a process. There are various vendors and there are various tests, and each company and each chip are looking into different SNPs, different positions in the chromosomes. And we are trying so that we can do our DNA matching in the most optimal way. We need to have one reference file, one file that looks the same, that we can compare those segments, those results that each of you got to determine if there is a DNA match. So in this example here, you can see that not all the SNPs exist on the MyHeritage chip and on the other vendor chip. In the imputation, and the best way to understand it, I think, is by using a fill in the blanks example. So the sentence you see in front of you, there are missing letters, but most of you will probably be able to read it even though the letters are missing. Our brain knows how to fill in the blanks automatically. And that's what we do with imputation. We look at patterns, and even if one SNP is missing, we know in a very high certainty what would have been the result of that SNP. And that's how we do imputation. That imputation allows us, again, to match those segments, those shared segments, and identify those. So in the example we've seen before, you can see that Eitan and Jane have one, in this example, a shared segment because of that match where they both have A, C, and C sequence in those 3 SNPs. That's how usually a shared segment would look. We look as we can see that the letters are repeating themselves, the results are repeating themselves over in the SNPs in that specific shared segment on the chromosome. All right. So now that we know the basic, I think that the best way to understand how to work with your list of DNA matches is by going and seeing it live on MyHeritage website. So when you've done your test or uploaded to your result, I'd like to remind here that on MyHeritage we allow and we welcome uploads for free of DNA tests, even if they were done with other vendors and not only with MyHeritage. So I welcome you all to upload your results to MyHeritage. You can see the list of your DNA matches. Now on the left, that is me, and you can see my mom and my father to the right. I've sampled many of my relatives, and I'll explain later why is that very important. So at the moment, I'm looking at my own results. I can always select another person if I want to switch and look at the results of other family members who I tested. Now let's see how the list looks like. So on the left, you see what matches are we showing you on this specific page. You can see my total number of DNA matches, which is at the moment 4,254 matches. But keep in mind that every day new folks are testing for DNA and uploading the results, and we're always finding new matches for everybody. So that's why I keep coming every morning checking to see what changed from last night. Now, what can you do with the list of your DNA matches? On the right, you have the option how to sort your list of these 4,000 or so matches. By default, we are sorting it by shared DNA, meaning the people with who you share the most DNA with will appear at the top of the list. As you can see, my father appears first, as we have approximately 50%, in this case 48.8. You also have the option to sort by the number of shared segments that you have, by the length of the largest segment, by name, or, very useful, by most recent. As I said, matches are being injected to the system every day as more people test. If you want to keep up, if you want to check what has changed from the last time you visited MyHeritage, very easy, you can click on the most recent and you'll be able to see the new matches which you recently received. Another option is to search. You can search by either all of the categories below or just by a name, if there's a specific relative you're looking for by last name or first name, by a country of residence, or by an ancestor surname. So if, for example, at the moment you know that you're trying to find out a little bit about your, you know that you have a relative by the surname of Levine and you have that path in your family tree and you're trying to figure that out, you can try and look for all the DNA matches you have who have ancestors with Levine in their surnames. The last option is to filter your list. You can filter it by those who have family trees. I'll get into that in a second. Those with whom you have shared surnames, both in your tree and in theirs, and with those who you have smart matches, which I'll explain again in a second. So as you can see, this list shows first that my top matches. So let's look at a card, for example. So this is my dad. His name is Raphael. He's 60s, in his 60s. He's from Israel, and it is listed who is managing his kit. Next, you can see what is the estimated relationship. In this case, it's pretty easy to say he's my father, but I'll show you in a second when things get a little bit more complicated. And you can see the DNA match quality information, the three parameters which are important, which are the amount of shared DNA the two of you have, the number of shared segments, and the largest segment that the two of you share. I can see that my dad appears in my family tree, but let's look at another example, which is a little bit more interesting. So my aunt, Iris, also tested with MyHeritage and activated the kit. Actually, her son, Yuval, activated the kit for her, which is also an option on MyHeritage. You can buy kits and you can activate them for different individuals. So Yuval, her son, he bought the kit for Iris, and I can see her full name. I can see that she's my aunt because she appears in my family tree, also in her 60s. I have the option to contact. In this case, because there's the person who the DNA kit is assigned to is different from the person who is managing the kit, who actually activated the kit for her, I have the option to contact both of them if I want to reach out and try to understand how the two of us are related or chat. I can see the estimated relationship. Now with Iris, you can see that I have 22% of shared DNA, which is reasonable and makes a lot of sense in case of a match with an aunt, with a full aunt. You can see that there's a question mark right next to the half-sister and aunt. And the reason that we show half-sister and aunt is because 22% with this amount of centimorgans can be applicable for both half-sister match and an aunt. When you'll click on the question mark, you'll see a big tree of showing different people with different relationship proximity to you, to the root individual you're looking at. So in this case, she can be my aunt again, and that's why we also dropped the half-sister, because we know she's my aunt. But in many cases, many people don't know what first cousin twice removed means, or third cousin once removed, and we'll be able to show you all that. And I'll show you a different map which shows a little bit more examples and more options of how this DNA match can be related to you. Let's move to the right side. So on the right side, I can see the family tree details. So we start by saying that Iris appears in the family tree on MyHeritage, which has 351 people and is managed by Yuval, again her son, and they are from the US. I also can see that my family tree has 143 smart matches with this tree, which is a big number, a large number. Smart matches in MyHeritage are matches between two individuals, an individual in your tree and an individual in the other person's tree. So there are two individuals which are probably the same person, and we were able to find a smart match between them. Obviously, as the number of smart matches grow and increases, it means that there's a very high probability that this person will be related to you, and it's interesting to find out how. The next item on the list are the shared surnames that both of you have in your trees. So in my tree, we have Bloom, and by hovering, you'll be able to see more info about each of the surnames, Olivenbaum, and if I'll hit the 5 more, I'll be able to see the other surnames that we have in common, which are really ancestors of both me and Iris, my aunt. On the top right here, you'll see what is now a gray icon, which is for adding notes. This is very useful when you're doing your research and you're trying to understand and add as you discover more info on how you and the DNA match are related. It's very, very, very helpful to add notes. So in this case, I can click on it and I can say that there are 7, I think, shared surnames, all from my maternal side. And I can save that note, and then I get an indication that a note was added for Iris, and I can always come back and look at the notes I've added. It's very helpful when doing your research. For any DNA match, you'll see 2 buttons. There's a button to view the tree, where Iris exists in case there is one, and a button to review the DNA match, which is what we'll go into next. So let's click on Review DNA Match and see more information about the DNA match that I have with Iris. So at the top, I see a summary again of the information I saw before, which gives me a general idea of how the two of us are related. When I start to scroll down, what I first saw in brief description, I can now see in more details. So the smart matches that me and Iris are having, I can see that both of us have Dan Geisler, which is my mother's cousin's husband, and other relatives that exist that I have both in my tree and Iris has in hers. I can always click on the Review Smart Match to review more details. So if there's some differences on the information I have between 2 individuals, for example, birth dates or death facts, I can look at that and see what information I can add to my tree for that smart match. Maybe she has more information on these people that I don't have in my tree. Next, we can see the shared ancestral surnames. Again, we saw it before in the previous page, but now we can see a deep dive of the actual people who carry the same surnames in both my tree and on Iris' tree. So we can see the Blooms, the Carmens, the Friedmans, Olivenbaum, Rosenstein, etc. Note that there's another option to view all ancestral surnames. In many cases, we won't have shared the surnames with that person, either because there are none at the moment, or because the other person or myself haven't added them to the tree yet. So by clicking by View All Ancestral Surnames, I'll be able to see both the surnames that I have in common with Iris and the ones which exist in my tree but doesn't exist on hers, and vice versa. The fascinating fact to see here is that all these surnames that we don't have in common are all from my paternal line, which I know very well, and that's the reason why they don't exist on her tree, because she didn't add the ancestors of my dad's side to her tree. Next in the list are the shared DNA matches. So I know that I'm matching Iris, and I know the details. I can always have it's docked at the top so that I can see it all the time. And I can see that both of us have DNA matches that in common. For example, my mom, which makes sense, I share with my mom 48%, and Iris, her sister, shares 37% with my mom. And as I go over the list, that I personally know these people as they're my immediate family, I can see my mother, Noga, my brother, Shai, her 3 kids, my personal daughter, and I can see that I don't have any relatives from my father's side who I tested, which makes it more clear to me that this match is from my maternal line. Moving forward in the list, the next component we have is the pedigree charts. The pedigree charts give you a clear view. You can always go and visit the tree of the DNA match that you have, but this is a very clear and simple view which shows only the direct ancestors of you and your DNA match. So I can see that Iris had a father, his name was Fritz Ephraim Blum, and her mother was Charlotte, and her parents were Heinrich and Stella, etc., etc. And I can look at her, I can look at her pedigree chart and compare it with mine and see that we have many relatives in common, obviously not from my father's side, but from my mother's side, again, Fritz and Charlotte and Heinrich and Stella. And that makes me more confident that this is indeed my aunt. Again, the example I chose mostly because of privacy reasons, which I didn't want to expose my DNA matches, shows me, in case I didn't know that, it helps me understand how the two of us are related. Moving further down, when you upload your DNA data to MyHeritage or by our kit and test with us, you'll be getting also an ethnicity estimate as part of the DNA results. That's a topic for another webinar though. But I can see the ethnicity estimate gives you a breakdown of your ethnicity and roots. And I can see a comparison between me and Iris and can understand maybe better how the two of us again are related. So I can see that both of us have Ashkenazi roots, and I can see that although I have Iberian, a little bit of Iberian in me, Iris has Italian but doesn't have any Iberian. So if, for example, I know, even if I haven't tested my parents, and I know that I have my Ashkenazi Jewish roots from my mother's side, it again will help me to understand when I see my DNA match who also have Ashkenazi Jewish, to understand that it's coming from that side of the family. The recent addition we added is the chromosome browser shared DNA segments. On the chromosome browser, as I've explained before, you'll be able to see those shared segments on a chromosome map where you and your DNA match are sharing segments. So again, me and Iris are sharing 22%. That's the reason why not the entire chart is filled with purple. So you can see that I have a shared segment on chromosome 1. When you hover over the chromosome, will show you the information for that specific segment, which will tell you in what is the genomic position, the starting and ending point on the chromosome, the RSIDs for these positions, the segment size, and the number of SNPs. And I can see that I have three shared segments on chromosome 1, and I have about 4 shared segments on chromosome 2, etc., etc. This is very helpful when I'm able to identify a match I have with one of the relatives, in this case Iris. I can use that reference and check with other DNA matches whether we are sharing segments in the same genomic positions, which means that if I have a DNA match with only one shared segment, but that shared segment falls exactly here on this genomic position or within it, that means that probably that DNA match, the third DNA match we're talking about now, sorry, is from my maternal side. And I'm sorry. And when I'm trying to do my research and understand how the two of us are related, I can, for now at least, skip the research on my paternal side and focus more on how both me, Iris, and that third person are both matching. Who is that common ancestor for the three of us? For those who want to work with the file externally, we've added the option right here on the top right to download the shared DNA info, shared segment DNA info, which will provide you with a CSV file with all of the information that you see in the tooltips and in an easy way for you to work with Excel, especially when you're trying to work on more than one match. Now, I would like to give you another example of another DNA match, actually a very exciting one, personal story of mine. So yesterday, as I said, I check my DNA matches regularly. And yesterday morning, I logged in and I saw a new DNA match, which was very interesting for me to find out. So after I scrolled through the DNA matches or all the relatives which I know of, I found this person. Her name is Edie Smith. I changed the name for privacy reasons. Edie Smith, and I can see that she's from the US. I can see that I have only 1.8% with her, and she can be my first cousin twice removed to my second cousin twice removed because of that shared DNA information, that shared DNA data. When I click on the first cousin twice removed, second cousin twice removed question mark right here, I'll be able to see where exactly can she be located, what is her relationship to me. And that is very helpful, and I encourage you all to use it. It simplifies things and helpful, especially when you're working with a long list of DNA matches. Sometimes the terms mix up, so that makes it much easier to understand based on that, on the amount of shared DNA that the two of you have, how can the two of you be related. So I was interested in this match, and unfortunately I see that she's currently not associated with the family tree on MyHeritage, which means I won't be able to see her, I won't have any shared surnames or surnames at all, or pedigree chart, but I was interested in this match, and therefore I went to the review DNA match, and this is the one I prepared right here. So again, the raw DNA match data, which is listed always at the top, and also when you scroll, you'll get that sticky header, which will always remind you which DNA are you looking at with the option to contact. And when looking at the list of shared DNA matches, the interesting part is that I can see my mom with a 4.8%, which means that Edie, to me, again, was first cousin twice removed to second cousin twice removed, but she's much closer to my mom, which makes sense. It's one generation up, so multiply the percentages. And I can see that she has 4.8%, which is a decent amount of shared DNA. I'll skip my daughter for a second and my brother, and I can see that next on the list I have my mother's sister Iris, which we just looked at, and they have 6.3%, which is even higher. And I don't see in the list of these DNA matches, these are all the three kids of Iris, I don't see any matches with my paternal side, which, as I said before, eliminates, at least for now, my need to look at my paternal side and try to understand how are we related from there, because we're probably not, and I should more focus on the maternal side. So that I can do with the help of my list of DNA matches. When looking at our shared ethnicities, I can see that she's also with a very high percentages Ashkenazi Jewish, which is probably where we both start, and our common ancestor was also an Ashkenazi Jewish. When looking at the chromosome browser, you can see that now I have less shared DNA, obviously, because she's much more distant to me than my aunt Iris, which I just showed you. And I can match those, and I actually did, and looked at the genomic positions of where the two of us match, and I was able to find, out of these total of 10 DNA segments, I was able to find at least 8 that were matching both me and Iris and my mom, which again gives me more certainty that we are related from that side of the family. And the higher as we go, the more chances we'll be able to understand who is our common ancestor. Unfortunately, Edie is not on a tree in MyHeritage, so I don't have more information at the moment that I can work with. So I've contacted her, and I've been waiting since yesterday, and hopefully she'll return my call, and we'll see where it all goes. But talking to my aunt, we think we have a very good understanding of who Edie is and how we are all related. So stay tuned. All right, so that's it for those 2 DNA matches. Now, as I previously stated, I want to give you a little glimpse. You're actually the first ones to see the next project that we're working on at MyHeritage. So I'm very excited to show you this for the first time. So we've recently launched the one-to-one chromosome browser, which lets you see your shared segments together with one DNA match. But as I explained, it's much more beneficial to look at that when you're looking at a whole group of people all together and trying to understand that group together, how are they related? So the current project we are working on, which again, I'm very excited to show you, is the one-to-many chromosome browser, which is currently in works. Things might change a little bit, so just the general concept. We're working on a new page, a new feature that will let you add up to 7 DNA matches and compare your shared DNA segment with each one of them. And when I say your, I mean also you and the DNA kits that you manage for other people. So we're working on this, and once you'll start adding people to the bank and hit compare, we'll be able to give you a look, which will look something like this. This is a case in which I am trying to match myself along with 7 of my DNA matches, and I'm trying to look for that shared segment that we all have, which means this is the IBD segment, the inherited by descent, that common ancestor that we all have, that we inherited, as generations went by. In many cases, you'll see when you'll try to add one more DNA match, sometimes it will break that shared segment. The group won't have a shared segment, and that means that the DNA match that you've added to your list is probably not a descendant of the same ancestor as the others. So we'll give you the option to go back and forth and edit that list in your attempts to find those specific places and contact the group and try to understand together who is that common ancestor who makes all of you a family. And that is the next project that we're currently working on, and I'm very excited about it, and it will go live hopefully very, very soon. Jeff, I believe that's my part.
Okay, I was looking for my unmute button there. I found it. That one-to-many chromosome browser, that is incredible. And I'm right now, Ran, in our questions panel, I'm getting all kinds of people writing about how beautiful it is. I mean, it's very visually appealing. I love what you've done with those colors there. Susan says it's incredible. Alyssa says loving it, and on and on and on. Carrie says, I appreciate all that MyHeritage is bringing to the site. I know another Susan says, can't wait for that one-to-many. So Ran, if I understood you correctly, that's going to be available later tonight. Is that right, or was I just dreaming that?
You're still dreaming. Oh. That's my dream. That's my dream too. I can tell you all that we're working around the clock. We're trying to get it out as fast as possible. As Jeff introduced me in the beginning, we have a very talented group of engineers who are working seriously almost around the clock trying to get it out as fast as possible. When we released the one-to-one chromosome browser, we got such terrific responses from the community.
Oh, I know.
And great feedback, and we saw how people loved it, and we knew that this is a must, and we've expedited the process of working on that. And again, I would like all of you guys, all of you joining or seeing this recorded afterwards, if you have your DNA data ready with you, please upload to MyHeritage, and I encourage you all to test as many relatives as you can. As this feature will go live, it'll be so much easier for you to work with the list of DNA matches and understand by adding people who you know your family, and then triangulating those with your other DNA matches will show you. Maybe you'll be our next success story going on MyHeritage.
Absolutely. Just what I'm saying on your screen right now, that you've taken another step to change the world of genealogy. That's incredible, and I'm still getting dozens and dozens of people writing in just about that. They love it, and you're responsible for the whole project. So well done, nice job.
Thank you.
So speaking of the uploading our DNA, I've got lots of questions in here specifically about that. Could you with your browser, could you point us to the area where we would go to begin that process?
Of course, I'll be happy
to. And again,
to.
this is if if we had a DNA test by a different company, is that correct? And we
That is
we
true.
want to upload it to MyHeritage?
That is true. We are aware, we do know that people have tested with other companies and they are looking to see more results. Our database is growing in a rapid pace. Some of you might have seen our recent blog on that, or
Yes.
our blog post. So we are welcoming uploads. Those are for free. You will get your ethnicity estimate and your list of DNA matches for free. So we highly recommend it. It's a process that takes approximately a couple of minutes, really very easy. We try to make it as intuitive as possible. You can either go to myheritage.com/DNA/upload, or alternatively from the DNA navigation bar, click on upload DNA data and you'll be taken. This is available both for users who already are members of MyHeritage, already have accounts, and even those who are not. The process looks the same. You'll just have to first create an account. Again, a process that takes up to 20-30 seconds. And once you'll get to this page, you'll click on start, and that is the screen. Again, very, very simple. You'll be asked, whose DNA data is this? Is it yours? Is it someone else? If it is someone else, you'll be able to check from your tree if you already have a tree on MyHeritage, and for example, if it's my wife's. So you can start typing the name and it will come up and you can easily select that person. And we have instructions on the right. We welcome at the moment DNA data files of Ancestry.com, Family Tree DNA, and 23andMe. So feel free to upload. Results will be ready within 1 to 2 days. Encourage you all to do that. And that's it. That's pretty much it. Once I click upload, I just need to bring the file and you're all set.
When it's done being processed, do I get an email notifying that it's ready to go?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You'll get emails. We didn't have a lot of time in this webinar, and that was not the focus, but our engagement team is working very, very, very closely on notifying users in all steps of the process. If you purchased a kit from us, we'll tell you when it was shipped, when it was when you activated it, when it was received in lab and went through the different stages. And if you upload the kit, again, a process that takes usually for us to analyze the results between 24 to 48 hours. And we'll notify you by emails once results are ready, and we'll welcome you to come and look at your list of DNA matches and use all those tools on which we just discussed.
So, Ran, one of my favorite days of the week, for a new reason, is Sunday. Sunday seems to be, I don't know if it's for everybody, but Sunday is the day where I get an email from MyHeritage showing me the list of new DNA matches that have been found that week. And so it seems, Ran, that maybe about 2 weeks ago, my list of DNA matches, it went from like 26 and now it's up to 1,200 or so, which is just incredible. How come it jumped so much so quickly? What happened a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, so I'll start with your first question, though. So you're absolutely right. Sunday is usually the day on which we send you your list of new DNA matches, your best DNA matches on the website, inviting you to come and look at them at the full list of DNA matches or at the review DNA match page which we went over. And that's, by the way, one of the, I looked at the match I showed you of Edie earlier, which the entire family is currently trying to, understand how the two of us are really related. But my aunt, for example, she discovered that match from that email and started investigating on her own. As for the other question you ask, I think Regev might be able to tell a little bit more about that on the overhaul we did with our DNA matches.
Okay. Yeah, Regev, are you there? I'd love to hear from you about this.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So I'm Regev. I'm a scientist in the DNA science team. So yeah, actually, a couple of weeks ago, there was the launch of the new matching algorithm and pipeline that we made. So we did a complete overhaul of the entire DNA matching algorithm and pipeline. We included many changes. There is a blog post in MyHeritage site which details exactly what are those changes. Among these are, so Ran spoke about the different phases in our pipeline: phasing, imputation, matching, and determining which relationships each match has. And so we basically improved each one of these steps. So now we have many more matches, less false positives, less false matches, and more accuracy about which relationship each match is.
Okay. Well, whatever you did, very, very good job. That was really fun to see that a couple weeks ago. Now, Rand, can you talk to us about the price? What does it cost to upload our matches?
So the price to upload your matches is currently $0. All you need to do, it's absolutely for free. If you've tested with another company of the one I've listed, you just need to download your file that's available on all of the vendors, including MyHeritage. You're the owner of your DNA data file, and you can download it from them very easily and upload to us. It costs nothing. One thing I think worth mentioning at this point is that recently, also listening to our users and for feedback that we get, we've decided to open the option to contact your DNA matches for free for all of MyHeritage DNA users, whether uploaders or folks who bought kits directly from us. So contacting DNA matches is now free. We are crossing our fingers and hoping and are actually pretty sure that very soon we'll be hearing a lot of success stories and a lot of reunite stories of folks who contacted their DNA matches. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see those happen.
It is. And Ran, I'm looking at the blog. So the blog is at blog.myheritage.com, and it looks like today's January 30th, if I'm not mistaken.
True.
And it looks like this was just announced minutes ago or hours ago that contacting your DNA matches is now free. And so at one time, or has it always been where you had to have a subscription to contact the DNA match, and just today that changed? Is that accurate?
So it used to be different. We had different permissions given to different type of users at MyHeritage. And again, giving exactly as it says, in response to popular demand, we've listened to you guys, we've listened to our users, and we want to try and, we want to see those success stories. We want to see you and everyone who's DNA tested, either with us or with others, have the option to contact their DNA matches. And we want to hear those success stories. We want to see how the tools and how the product and the algorithms and the science and everything behind what we do is helping our users with the research, and contact is one of the most important things. We do understand that, and that is the reason why we decided to open it for everybody for free.
Yeah, thank you. Ran, I haven't told this to anybody yet. I have not written about it, but one of the new matches that I recently was presented with on MyHeritage, which was not a match on any of the other DNA sites, I worked through the process and figured out how she was related to me, and I wrote to her via the messaging system. She wrote back to me, and I've now got a new third cousin I didn't know about before, and we're friends on Facebook. And while we don't know much about each other, just because now we're friends on Facebook, I now feel a little part of her life, and I'm it's just that new connection to family that I got from that DNA match. I just love that. So thank you. Now, so we've talked about the price. We've talked about contacting matches. I've got a lot of other questions here. There is one I wanted to ask of you before I forget, because I learned about this just this week being here at MyHeritage headquarters in Israel. Now, let me go up to my site here. So I'm going to myheritage.com. I'm going to hover over DNA, and one of these one of the items here is surveys. And when I click on that, this tells me I couldn't sleep the other night because of the time zone difference, and it's just killing me. And so I spent time, and I told you,
Jeff, on the way back, it's much easier.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. So these are all the surveys that I completed. I don't know why you're asking these things of me, but they were all very interesting. Can you teach me a little bit about these surveys, and is this something that we should do, or is it just a fun thing? Tell us the reason that we have this.
So the surveys we've launched recently is our attempt. Regev, who spoke earlier from our science team, they are working on various projects. And when we're talking about DNA, there's so much you can take out of it. Most of what we do today on the website is using for genealogy purposes, finding relatives, understanding your roots. But there's a lot more in there. And we want to try and understand it. We want to try to learn more about these things and maybe how your DNA is related to some of the questions we ask in these surveys. We are basically trying to find correlation between, certain SNPs in the DNA to certain things that people answer. One of the fascinating, for example, the sleep survey, we're trying to figure out whether, we can see that people who are from certain ethnicity have less or more sleeping disorders. And we're discovering pretty cool things that we plan to launch. So I think it'll be very fascinating to our users to see once it's ready.
Yeah, so that's something that'll be released tomorrow or sometime later on this year, do you think? So we'll learn about it up on your blog. I mean, I'm just fascinated. I loved going through those questions, and it seems like, there must be something really great coming as a result of this. So sometime later this year, I'm guessing, would that be risky for me to suggest that?
I think 2018 is a good estimate. And again, we're still, that's the thing with science and with research. We're looking at the data, we're now gathering it, and then it'll go into analysis, and Regev will be able to say much more. And once we'll find out results, we've seen very, internally when we review some of the data, we see very high response rates for these surveys. And you're not the only one who completed all of these surveys, which we're very happy to see. So once we are able to take some outcomes out of these, which we already see very, very interesting stuff, and we'll be more than happy to share it with our users when time comes. Yes, definitely.
Now, when you say share it with your users, I'm assuming that is there a level of confidentiality with this? So if I do the survey, are you going to you're not going to share my name and what I chose, are you?
No. Okay. Everything we do at MyHeritage, and again, we didn't talk a lot about DNA privacy this section, but everyone who has taken a DNA test or have uploaded, even for the DNA matches, you go by an alias name, and you don't have to use your real name if you want to do that. Okay. And same thing here, we're using aggregated data based on ethnicity results and ages and those kind of things to try and find the correlation. That's how science do their magic at MyHeritage. But we're not, and MyHeritage will never use anyone's private data for any kind of these things. Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you for clarifying that. That's an important issue for a lot of people. So I'm glad to hear that. We're going to go do some door prizes in just a couple of minutes, but we're getting a lot of the similar questions, and so I just want to knock a couple of those off here. Alice is hoping for a confirmation, and she asks, do I have to belong to MyHeritage to do that upload?
So by belong, not sure what belong means.
Oh,
in order for you to upload your data, you will need to create an account, which basically will be asking you for your email address, your gender, so that we can, give more informative information when we give DNA matches, whether it's to a female or male. Your year of birth, just to make sure that you're not underage. That's it. Those three details. You upload your.
So it's a free account that you.
It's free. Everything is free. Everything is free. Again, as you said, we are encouraging our users to start building their trees. As you can see with the DNA matches, maybe the brick wall that I'm currently hitting with Edie might have been easy. I would have been able to more easily resolve it if there was a little bit of information from the tree. But it's all up to the user. We're encouraging you to do that, but it's up to you to decide.
Okay. And then what about, here's a question from Deanna who says, are there plans for the, it's a test from another company called Living DNA, I believe. Do you know if it's possible to grab their raw DNA from that test and upload to MyHeritage? Or are there plans? that?
Yes, so the Living DNA are using the V5, the GSA chip, which is a relatively a new chip. We are currently, actually, Regev's team is currently on doing those phasing and imputation processes for these kind of chip.
Good.
So
Okay.
it's in the works. It's in the works. We will accept your file now. I recommend again that you upload it today. You won't receive your results, but we'll keep it. And once we are ready to process these type of files, we'll shoot you an email. We'll let you know your results already, and you'll get your ethnicity estimate and the list of your DNA matches, similar to any other user.
Okay. Thank you. And by the way, Tammy writes in saying, so much cool stuff coming down the pipe. And she says, on a side note, she just finished reading Something Beautiful Happened. She says she loved how MyHeritage helped the families. What is that? Is that an article or a video? Do you know what Something Beautiful Happened is?
I believe I do, but I'm not sure whether I'm really the right guy to talk a little bit more about that. That's a book by Yvette Meneses, who is a very good friend of MyHeritage.
Really?
Yeah, she even went on Fox and Friends about 5 months ago, I believe, and spoke both about, she gave a talk about her book and also about the work that MyHeritage has been doing. She's a very dear friend of MyHeritage, and yeah, I definitely recommend the book. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, I've got to ask you this one here from Shannon. Shannon, I know Shannon's one of our speakers in our webinar library, and I highly respect him. Shannon's wondering, will we have the ability to download a spreadsheet containing all of the shared DNA segments for all of our matches? Do you know what he's asking, and is that possible in the future?
So the thing, I think that, again, at MyHeritage, what we're trying to do, and that's something that, we put in front of us, and we're trying to keep up to that every day in everything that we do, is we try to listen as much as we can and understand what our users and also others, what they're looking for and what they need. Following the big release, the new matches pipeline overhaul that we've spoken about a bit earlier, we saw that demand for, once we gave, we get that option to export the one-to-one, and then eventually people want the one-to-all. And yes, that's actually in the works. I anticipate it will be ready within the next month or so, even before that.
Wow.
And users will be able to export. They won't have, I follow on Facebook, and I see those guys going one match at a time and exporting and exporting and exporting. And yes, and we'll make it available so that with one click, you'll be able to export and get the list, the list of all the shared DNA segments with all of your DNA matches in one CSV file. And it's in the works, and will be ready very soon.
Oh, it's so fun here, and I'm glad I attended this webinar tonight. This is exciting.
So am I.
Shannon writes in saying fantastic. So Shannon, thanks for the question. I'm going to switch over. I've already switched over to my computer. I'm going to switch over to my slide bank here, and I'm going to talk about this slide just for a minute, and we'll do a couple of door prizes. So this is the second of the MyHeritage webinar series. If you missed the first one, just go back on to familytreewebinars.com and look in the library there. It was Daniel Horowitz, who I think it was about 2 weeks ago, talked about genealogy for beginners, starting your online family tree, and it was incredible. So go and check that out. Next, we're going to hear from MyHeritage on the 21st of February. This is a Wednesday this time, on Tribal Quest. Now, I personally requested this topic for a webinar because of what I learned about Tribal Quest. If you haven't seen it yet, I can't remember the website, tribalquest.org, or just do a Google search for Tribal Quest. It's incredible. So I'm really looking forward to learning about that. On the 13th of March, we'll learn about true stories of families reunited thanks to genetic genealogy. Looking forward to that. And then hands-on with MyHeritage DNA. That's me, and I've got someone from MyHeritage that's going to walk me through my DNA results, explain what I'm seeing, help me understand where to go next with them. So if you've been there for Watch Jeff Live webinars in the past, it'll take that approach. We'll learn about how DNA testing can reveal your ethnic roots, and then genealogy for advanced users, grow your family tree. So register for all of them up at familytreewebinars.com, and we'll send you that email reminder. Okay, it's door prize time, and I did not have a very difficult time trying to decide what we should give away as a door prize tonight. I thought the DNA kit would be a really nice thing. So, Ran, what should we? Is there anything else we would need to know about purchasing a DNA kit? Just head up to MyHeritage.com. How long does it take to receive the results back? Can you just talk just a little bit about the actual test kit and what we can expect?
Sure, and there's also a lot of information on myheritagedna.com, which I highly recommend all of you to visit and read about. Once you place the order, once you order your kit, it'll be shipped out the same day or the day after. We have different shipping methods. To get to your door, then you need to take the test. 2-minute stop, I promise. You ship it back to the lab, and once they get it, it's 3 to 4 weeks on average, and your results are ready. And you'll be able to see all of the great things I've shown you earlier.
Yeah. Now, spitting into a tube is kind of a hard thing for some people. Do we have to do that with this test, or isn't it it's a cheek swab, isn't it?
That is very, very true, and a very good point that you bring up, Jeff. Actually, when I started sampling my family, so I feel open enough to share. So I've sampled both my grandmother, who's turning 90 in a week.
Wow!
And I can tell you that with the cheek swab, that made life much easier. I seriously can't imagine how we would have done it with the spit. And I've also sampled my 2-year-old daughter. Which cost me in a little box of candies in return. Yes, it was a tough negotiation, but I mean, it makes life so much easier. The test takes less time. It's less intrusive. It's just easier, and that's also the response we're getting from folks who buy our kit. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, really? Very interesting. There's a question that just came in about that. Here's the question. So if you have been tested by another vendor, is there an advantage to also testing with MyHeritage DNA? Are there differences? Your thoughts?
So I think yes. So there are slight differences between the different companies. One of them is from the science perspective and the chip, again, that each one of the companies use. We look at different SNPs, and we spoke a little bit earlier about the imputation. But we will be able to give you different results, and we at the moment not necessarily all features will be available in the future for uploaders and for people who buy our kits. We might differentiate a bit. So
seems
it's
reasonable.
really we're leaving it up to you guys.
Okay. Okay, everyone. I've just turned on your ability to raise your virtual hand. So look in that control panel, in your webinar control panel, and between a number of between 1 and 1,000. I'm going to choose. I'm going to ask Ran, what do you think? I'm going to pick whatever number you say will be the one that I go down the list and award this door prize to. So, what's your favorite number between 1 and 1,000 here?
I will go with 758.
Oh, 7. I was hoping it'd be like number 2.
I know.
That
I
would
wanted
be
to
a lot
spell.
easier.
I know.
Okay, I'll go. So look for that hand raising button, everyone. It's just right there in that webinar control panel. Give it just a 1 click, and I'm going to go and find number. What did you say? 758. 758. All right, I'm going. Jill Knight, congratulations and well done for clicking at exactly the right time. You've got a DNA kit coming your way. Jill, I can hear you virtually screaming out there. Okay, so thanks for being here and congratulations. From the day that you order the kit to the day it arrives in your mailbox, how long does it usually take, Ren?
So we have standard shipping and express shipping. And
Okay.
if I remember it correctly, the standard shipping should arrive within 5 to 7 days, and with the express, it should arrive within 3 days. Talking domestic US orders, overseas, it takes a little bit longer.
Okay. And once we return the kit, is there an estimation of how long it takes to actually get the results?
Yeah. So once you'll activate your kit, you'll be able, in your Manage DNA kit section, you'll be able to track your kit, and you'll be able to see at any given time, actually from the time you purchase it, where exactly is it. We'll give you also a link to see where it stands in the shipping, with the vendor who's shipping it to you, and also in the lab where it currently stands and what is the estimated time in which results will be received. We will notify you that results are ready, which again, usually 3 to 4 weeks tops, and you're all set from the time it gets to the lab. Yes.
Oh, good. Well, I've actually advanced to my next slide here in my presentation. You wouldn't know it because we've got another DNA test kit to give away as a door prize. How should I do this one? Do you have a favorite name? Let's see. What's the first letter of your first child, Ran? And I'm going to find someone that matches that.
My first M, as in
M.
McDonald's.
Okay, yes. So if your name starts with M, I'm going to find the first one here in my entire list that starts with M. Molly McKinley. That was fun. Ran, I've never done it that way before. I'm trying to come up with new ways to pick a prize so people don't think I'm, just picking my friends. Well, everyone here is my friend, but Molly McKinley, congratulations. You're our next winner. That was fun. And Molly, I want to hear you give a big hooray here in our chat area too. Okay, now current pricing. If I head up here and I hover over the DNA and I click on Order DNA Kits, and I'm here in Israel, so how do I find out what the current price is? Well, I would find out by clicking right there, but do you know what it is?
Right. Yeah, so the current price for a DNA kit is, we price it today at $69.
Okay.
And the price changes around the world, euros, Great Britain pounds, etc. Yeah. $69 is the current price for a DNA kit.
Oh, good. Okay. So I'm on my questions slide. So let me see. I've asked you the questions that I had that I've been writing down. So let me get back over to my questions panel. I'm almost there. Usually on two big monitors. I'm on my little laptop here tonight. So I'm doing this a little bit different. Oh, I've got some whoops. Look at this. Linda just writes in. Linda says, I just successfully uploaded my FT DNA to MyHeritage. And she says, whoop, whoop, with 2 exclamation marks after that. So Linda, congratulations. And Linda, I'd like you to send me an email in 2 or 3 days when you get those results. Tell me what you're seeing. Can't wait to hear from you, Linda. Okay. Other question. Linda says, I've been tested by 2 other companies. Should I upload results from both of them or from just one of them? Or does it matter?
I would recommend, same as she tested with 2 companies, I recommend that you upload both. We know how to handle these cases.
Oh, really?
Where 2 kits, when we have 2 kits from 2 different vendors associated with the same individual, that usually the tests are a little bit different. As I said, the tests are a little bit different with every company, and we'll be able sometimes to find you matches with one of the kits that we were not able to find with the 2. We will show you an aggregated view showing you all the matches that we were able to find for you processing those 2 kits. So I would definitely recommend uploading both. Yes.
That took some. I'm impressed. I was thinking you're going to suggest just to upload one or the other, but that's wow. Nice job.
The more data, the more chances we'll find, surprises around the corner. I definitely recommend uploading. If you've tested with both, upload both.
Okay. Oh, cool. Thank you. I need to switch. Do you mind if we switch back over to your computer so you can answer this question?
I can try.
Okay, here we go. You should have the ability to do that now. And then Colleen is wondering, she says, I really like that picture showing what a second cousin twice removed is.
Yes.
Can you show us where? So start at the beginning here, because that's a chart that I refer to a lot as well. I really like that. Will you show us specifically how to access that?
Sure, I'll be more than happy to. Again, the chart that I'm showing you, for example, let's see if I can get back here. So this is in the review match page. You have your data right here summarized at the top, and you can see here is the estimation. And now is your chance to click on that question mark right next to it if you want to understand what first cousin twice removed to second cousin, because usually there are many relationships within that range. And once you'll click on that, you'll be able to see this chart. It exists everywhere where we show you that relationship estimate. It's also available from the full list of DNA matches, which I just moved to right here. So you click on that question mark and it'll pop up. I'm sorry that I can't show you more examples. I want to keep the privacy of my DNA matches, and I don't want to expose them.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. It's a beautiful chart.
It is a beautiful chart, and again, it adjusts based on that relationship. Here, you'll also be able to see a list at the top showing you, the top. The most likely relationship that this DNA match based on the data that this DNA match will be. So please refer to that first line and also look at the chart. It simplifies things and makes life much easier.
Yeah,
especially when going over a long list. One thing I see now that I didn't mention before, though, is that as you can see right here on the top right corner of the left side, there's a new badge. So for new DNA matches that come in, you'll see those a lot if you'll sort your list of DNA matches by most recent. So as you can see,
will you show us how to do that? Where is that sort?
So the sort is right here at the top of your DNA matches, and even if you go to your second page or third page, these will always be available. And if you click and sort by most recent, again, I'm sorry I can't do that. I just don't want to see don't want the names of others to pop. But once you'll do that, you'll see your top new DNA matches, and those will also be symbolized with this little new indication, which means that they were recently injected to the system. When we did the overhaul, one more thing you'll be able to see for some matches is updated, and that means that once we had our algorithms improved and we ran the matches again, some of the data changed, right? Maybe the shared DNA, maybe the estimated relationship. So we're showing you an indication if you previously looked at this DNA match with the new system, it might have updated. Yeah, it probably updated, and we recommend that you look at it again. Yes.
Can you do a sort on updated or a filter on updated?
No, we're showing a new updated. Usually won't happen. It's really when we're making those every couple of months that overhaul. Yeah, the one-time change, and then we're showing the updated.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right, good. Thank you, Catherine. It sounds like she did a DNA test with some kind of a health company because she wanted some health data. She's wondering. Would that kind of a DNA file be able to be uploaded to MyHeritage? She doesn't know which company it was.
I'll need to know a little bit more about that. What I recommend is that for her to try. I mean, when you upload a DNA file to our system, if we detect it as an autosomal file, because when you're saying health, it can be so many things. So if it was an autosomal file, we will probably take it and try to process it. If won't, we will show you the relevant message that unfortunately this file type is not supported. But we are trying to process every file that comes in that is an autosomal DNA file. Yes.
All right. Very good. Thank you. I want to ask you this question from Susan. And by the way, thank you. I mean, you're doing an incredible job. I'm asking these as fast as I can, and you're doing well. And it's late here in Israel, but I've never been here. This is my first time, and this is an incredible place.
Thank you.
Anyways, that's just how I'm feeling right now. Okay, Susan says, she says, if I upload my DNA and my dad's DNA, will MyHeritage be able to extract from that comparison the DNA that she has from her mom? She's trying to narrow down the paternal line or the maternal line on some of her matches, but I think she does not have access to her mom's DNA. So
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay, you understand the question. Okay, I couldn't ask
I
it the
think
right way, but
I think I do. So we won't be able to really create that DNA file of her mom. But
okay.
what I recommend in such scenarios, and we have many people coming and asking similar questions. I have the ability to test my dad. I don't have the ability to test my mom,
Okay.
or along these lines. If there is someone else from your maternal line that you can test, a sister, as you can, as in my example, Iris was my aunt, my mom's sister. If you can test her or one of her sons or a grandma, that's very valuable, and that way you'll be able to differentiate between your DNA matches and better understand which of your DNA, using the shared DNA matches component, you'll be able to see whether the matches you have are from your maternal side or paternal side. But that's also something that you can also do it today, because if you've tested yourself and you've tested your mom and you have a DNA match with someone and your dad is not one of your shared DNA matches, very likely, most probability that it's from your maternal side.
Okay. Well, very good. Thanks. Yep, I think that answers that well. Thank you. Michelle says, please explain why or how does this happen? If someone has proof of their genealogical ancestry, is it possible that her tree could be completely different from her DNA ancestry? So her DNA says that she's from France, but her genealogy says she's not from France. I mean, is that possible? And what could the reasons be for that?
So if I got the question right, we're saying that she received her ethnicity estimate results, which showed her that she's some percentage of, at MyHeritage, we have North and Western European, and she doesn't know of any ancestors who came from that region.
Yeah.
I think that maybe Regev will be able to add more about how we are doing our ethnicity estimate and calculating these results. That sometimes can happen. Sometimes people simply don't know. When we're doing a DNA test, it goes many generations up. And some people, that I discovered things I had no idea about. And initially I looked at them and I said,
that's what I was wondering.
I have no Iberian roots, no way. And when starting to look at it, for example, I received 4.7, I think, Iberian. And when I sampled my mom, I saw that she has 9% Iberian, which makes a lot of sense, because as every generation goes by, we kind of lose, right, in brackets, we lose 50% of it. So things started making sense. And when I, tried researching, I saw that there is some truth. There is truth behind that ethnicity that I received. In many cases, and in some cases, we do see, we do have still false results. In some cases, for the low percentages, Regev might be able to talk a little bit more about how we do our ethnicity estimate, which might shed a little bit more light on that.
Yeah, Regev, are you available to talk about that?
Hi. Yeah.
Hey there.
Hi. So yeah, basically Ron covered it. So it could be, of course, that there's some missing knowledge about some part of the history, or if in the smaller percentages could be some mistake, some fluctuations in that, and of course it could be possible that the ethnicity estimates refer to something further back up in the history. So maybe it says that your ancestors are from Germany, but if you go further up, they came from Scandinavia or something else, and then the DNA would pick that up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good possible answer for that. Both of you, I don't know if you were in the room today. I was actually presenting a class to MyHeritage today, and one of the reports I was showing them, the Origins report, which is in the Legacy Family Tree software, and in that Origins report, it shows a breakdown of where my ancestors were born, and for example, it might say that 40% of my ancestors were born in Ireland, but my DNA results might say, I'm 80% from Ireland, and so that could be an indication to me that I haven't found all of my Irish ancestors yet, and there's more to be found. And so what you're saying there, I think that could be an explanation to what I was seeing as well. It just could be further back that I just haven't discovered yet. So thanks for your question, and appreciate your response. Here's a heartfelt question here from Alyssa. She says she understands now that we can upload our results from a test that she did from another company, but she wonders, can she do it for someone who has since passed away? She says she manages her father's DNA kit from another company, but he passed away, and so he can no longer give his consent. How would we respond to Alyssa?
So we do give the option to upload results also of deceased individuals.
Okay.
If the file is in her property and she has the legal rights to use it, it's the same. Basically, it's the same flow as we've seen before. You type in the name of the person who the kit belongs to, just mark the right gender and upload, and we'll process it like any other kit that we are processing. We do have there's a lot of DNA data. As we go up, one thing to say about DNA matching and DNA testing in general, the more you go up in the generations, the more you climb up in the tree, the results will be more interesting, because that's, we're looking for the parts in the tree where, there are different families, started from different ancestors, and as you go up, there's a higher chance that you'll find the common ancestor that all of you have. I'm very lucky to be able to test my grandma. Unfortunately, not the other one, though. But yes, we welcome those.
Okay, so your grandmother, she's turning 90 this year. Is that what you said?
This week, yes.
This week. Oh, well, happy birthday to Grandma. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay. What about Michelle's wondering about the ethnicities? She's wondering, is it possible, or is there an explanation that an ethnicity percentage varies from one vendor to another? Any ideas about that?
I think Regev will be able to say more about that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so definitely this could happen, although we do expect that in the end the results will be somewhat similar between the vendors. Each vendor uses, first of all, a different reference set according to which they compare the individuals, and they use different algorithms, different statistics, different decisions in the process. So these all end up with slightly different results. So yeah, it could definitely happen.
Okay.
I would be surprised, though, if something really drastic comes up, like, some 50% ancestry from some place which doesn't come up in other vendors.
Okay.
But basically, it should be similar, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Dale asks this question. Dale says, I'm an only child, and my generation is the oldest. I have 3 cousins on both sides, and I have 1 son. Who should be tested?
It's a tricky question.
Who should she start with?
Does all is a good response? I would.
That's what I was thinking.
I would say that's my case at least. But no, I would say that if you'll take, if you're working with a certain budget, I would definitely take 1 cousin from the paternal side and 1 cousin from the maternal side.
Okay, I like that.
Cousins are great for triangulation and understanding how DNA matches are related, because this way you have you have two different branches on the tree which you can work with, and that's
I love that answer. Yeah, if she's got the living cousins on both sides, at least go and get one from both sides.
Yes, correct. That's the method I will go through. Let's start with 1 from each side and then maybe test others, but yes.
All right, good. Thanks. By the way, we're getting close to the time to conclude here. We've got a few more minutes, and Pam is asking about adoption. She says, I've been trying to help a friend who is adopted. Would DNA testing help? And what would she expect to find? I've heard a lot of really fascinating stories about this. I want to hear what you have to say.
So I think the answer, first of all, is definitely yes. I think when genetic genealogy was introduced a couple of years ago, and we started using those DNA tests, we've seen the increase in the number of success stories of adoptees finding families. When you're working with genealogy only, working with trees, you're working with trees only, and people also make sometimes mistakes. And with records, historical records, DNA is certain. DNA, it's like, it's in us. It's not something that can be changed. There is very little room for errors. And we see people, I highly encourage all of you to go to myheritagedna.com and read about those, or to stories at .myheritage.com, and read about those success stories we've had with people who were looking for the families their entire lives. They did a DNA test. One morning, they got an email. We found you a good match, 50%. And it changed their lives. And it's amazing. These are the stories, that's the thing that drives me. I think these are the most exciting ones. Yeah. And we're so happy at MyHeritage that we can contribute and help those people. It's great. It's great. So I absolutely recommend. I mean, it's one of the best ways, as I've learned, to find lost family. Yeah.
So Ran, I've read those stories, and it's now like my new favorite reading material, but now I can't remember, how do I get to those stories? You've got your screen there. Can you point us to where to go find those?
Yes, absolutely. So if you'll go to myheritage.com/DNA, you'll get to our main page. I'm still sharing, right?
Yes.
And you can read some of the testimonials of some of our users who our DNA kits were very helpful for. You can view success stories.
Oh, there's the link. Okay.
Which will take you to stories.myheritage.com, where you'll be able to read more about the success stories and the people we brought together, both using genealogy and DNA. And we also we saw how important this thing is for many, and we've added a new page talking about DNA matches, which is basically, we're showing here, we're explaining what DNA matching is, and we're showing some of the great success stories we've had over the past 2 years of reuniting family using DNA. So I highly recommend you visit both pages and learn more and read. Really emotional and great stories.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, Brian shared that link. I'm going to reshare it here with all of you. There we go. Okay. Let me ask this question of you that Jill asked. She says, it's still not clear to me what all we get for free if we upload our existing data. Matches, ethnicity, chromosome browser, is that all part of the what you get for free?
That is correct. When you upload your DNA test, you'll be able to get both your ethnicity estimate report, your list of DNA matches, the option to contact all of them, as we just discussed, and the chromosome browser will be there available for you as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Alan's got a really interesting question, and maybe Regev has some thoughts about this, or maybe you do. He's wondering, do you foresee in the future DNA tests could be taken from a hair sample? He has deceased parents, and maybe he's got a hair sample that he was able to save. Is that something that is a possibility for the future, or what do you think?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I'm not an expert on that part of the science. I do think that like in forensics, they have the ability to do that, but I think it's much more difficult than doing that with a drop of saliva or one of the other methods. So I think it's technically possible, but I don't think it will happen like in the near future at MyHeritage.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you this of Leslie. She says, if I purchase a test for my sibling, am I the only one that can see those results, or can my sibling access them also?
So that's a very good question, actually. So we have two permissions on the websites. We have two types of users. So the person who activates the kit or uploads it is called the manager of the DNA kit, and he has access to the results as well. And also, if the person tested is another individual, and you just associate it with the individual and make sure you invite him to your MyHeritage site, there's an FAQ explaining how to do that. Really not complicated. and then you will both be able to see your results. You'll both get your list of DNA matches on the weekly basis. So you'll both have access to that.
Oh, great. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Sue writes in saying this webinar has answered some questions I've had for a long time about autosomal DNA, and she says thank you. We got lots of other comments in here saying thank you, they love it, and so on. That one, I'm really, I want you to go to bed because I want you to get working on that one too many chromosome browser, and I don't want to be the cause that it's delayed here any further than maybe tomorrow night. So let us know when that's ready. We've had a really nice time here tonight. We've had a lot of people here from 41 countries. That was fun. But
that's amazing.
Anything that we've left out for tonight? Do you want anything that you'd like to conclude with, or should we just say good night? What do you think, Rand?
I think I'll end up with one sentence, is that really at MyHeritage, as you can see and what we've done in the past year with the product, and one of the reasons I wanted to be in this webinar and give it from a product manager perspective is really trying to explain to you the things and go over those different features and abilities that we provide in the product, trying to make our users' life as easy as possible, as fun as possible to work with this product. It's fun for us. We want to make it fun for you as well. Yeah. And we'll keep on innovating. The chromosome one too many. It's one thing I've shown you, and we spoke a little bit about that export all shared segments. There's so much more coming. I highly encourage all of you, those who have already keep on, and those who have not, join us.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad, Rand, that you're the one in charge of the whole DNA system at MyHeritage, because it sounds like you have the passion and it sounds like you really enjoy it. So they've got the right guy in there. So thanks to you. Thanks to Regev, our scientist, for being here with us as well. And thanks to all of you around the world, wherever and whenever you are. Thanks for sharing your day with us. And remember, life is short. Do genealogy first. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you, Jeff.
Good night.
You're welcome. Good night, Regev. Thanks.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.